And how was that experience that would kickstart the whole series, as I understand?
Well, that was probably the best overall animation experience I ever had, because Marvel was at a point where they needed something to kickstart the studio. Everything was drying up on them and they didn't have much left. And Margaret Lesh called Will and Larry and I in and said, look, you guys have been pestering us about the X-Men for years. Can you do a pilot for us? Can you get, we've got Larry Pryde who'll be your writer, and you can collaborate with Stan and see what you come up with. And we went, well, of course, we'd love to do that. And we had the meeting with Stan and quickly realized that he thought we'd be doing the original X-Men, Angel and Cyclops and the Beast and Marvel Girl and Iceman. And we said, no, it's not who they are now, Stan. They're basically Storm and Wolverine and Nightcrawler with Cyclops in there, and the Beast shows up once in a while, but that's not the core group anymore. And his attitude was, well, you guys seem to know what you do. Why don't you just go wing it? So we went, really? And it was like, oh boy, we got all the toys and we got the playroom too. So we worked with Larry Parr and we crafted a script that we hoped would introduce an audience to these characters as fully as possible, and try to avoid an origin story because they're so damn boring. And with the X-Men, where do you go with an origin story? I don't even know how that works. It just doesn't seem to be possible to me. You just have to say that there's this guy who's been bringing kids into his school that have special abilities, and that's kind of the most you need to do about that. So we approached it from a concept that I and Will and Larry have always liked, this idea of it being seen from a child's point of view, and Kitty Pryde was perfect for that. I always loved a show growing up called The Rifleman, which was a show about a guy who had a special sharpshooting, fast-shooting rifle, repeating rifle in the Old West, and him and his son had a farm that they lived on. And they were basically farmers, but he was well known as this gunfighter too, who protected this town he lived in. But the whole thing was seen from the son's point of view, which made it really easy to access the heroic abilities of this man. You could say, oh yeah, I get it. The son sees him like this. And it was created by Sam Peckinpah, in fact. It was just a great show. So we decided Kitty Pryde would be our point of view character, and we brought in the main characters, Colossus and Storm, Nightcrawler, Wolverine. Who else did we have in there? I think we might have had a couple of extraneous characters. I can't think of what her name is, that disco superhero that was popular at the time too. Dazzler, exactly. I think Dazzler was in there. Anyway, we decided to show what mutants were and make it Magneto and his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants versus the X-Men. And this is the way we developed the whole thing. And when we had the story written, we made it real clear to Larry Parr. We didn't want any funny animals. We didn't want any goofy sidekicks. We wanted a show a lot like Johnny Quest. So that's the way we approached the show. And when I was the one who got to do the recording sessions as director with of course an actual voice director, but to direct what I wanted from the characters and to help and to cast it. So the only problem I ran into was Marvel Comics insisted that, and this came from Jim Shooter directly with a few other people, that Wolverine had to be an Australian because they were going to reveal that he came from Australia, which turned out to be a red herring that was given to us. It really wasn't going on, and we feel like later this was because Marvel was left out of this production and they weren't happy about it. So we fell for it, and we cast an Australian voice for that. Other than that, I got everything I wanted out of it. I got John Stevenson to play Professor X, who he had been the second Dr. Quest in the Johnny Quest original series. And once we'd finished the recording sessions, and we did it all in a day, all the actors went, wow, that was fun. We have never done a serious superhero show like this before. There weren't any, goofy characters or funny animals or anything. And they said that was really fun to do a serious show. So we gave them the film, and it sat around for a couple of years being shown, and Fox was interested once they started Fox Kids. But that changed really quickly when Margaret Lesh became the head of Fox Kids, and she wanted this property done and done right. So she brought Will and Larry in, and they wanted me, but I'd moved up to Seattle at that point. So I agreed to be the character designer on the show. And I did storyboards after that. But Margaret saw that this show got made, and it was a huge hit, as everybody knows. We were kind of shocked ourselves because we did the show as well as we could, but the animation wasn't great. We knew that. But that didn't seem to matter, because when the show started airing, because it aired about 6 months to a year after Batman, the animated series, began, we were beating them in the ratings every week. And that was shocking to us, because we all knew how good Batman was. It was a really good series. And it was done the way I had envisioned an animated superhero series should be done. Simple, with the voice acting carrying the characters, and simply animated. And this is something that I know that Bruce Timm and his folks got from watching the Flash or Superman project. Simple design, and even though they had much better animation back in the day, and the Batman series knew that their animation wouldn't be great like ours, but they did that by simplifying the characters and simplifying what was going on, and letting a lot of the character work be carried by great voice actors. But we still beat them every week for a long time, and the show was a huge hit.
One of the things that seems to be of extreme importance in animation shows is the opening themes, and the X-Men certainly has one of the most memorable opening themes ever.
People love it. I'm not nuts about it personally, but people
There's
love
about
it.
1 million versions of it. So
There is. There's rock and roll versions of it. There's symphonic versions of it. I'm just kind of amazed how much people love it. In fact, the show itself, when I started working at one of the last regular gigs I did before I retired, was I started working at 343 from Microsoft on Halo, the game Halo, and as their cinematic storyboard artist. And when the guys in the studio, the guys and the women in the studio all found out I'd worked on X-Men, oh my God, they just went nuts. They just thought, oh, that's the best cartoon show I ever had as a kid. They all just went nuts. And I just went, really? Oh, well, that's great. But, I just couldn't believe that all these really wonderful animators thought this was a terrific show, because they were animating some pretty awesome stuff.